This video we're going to talk about the PHPCS, which is PHP Code Sniffer, and we're going to discuss how to use it for WordPress themes and projects. So let's begin then. So what is PHPCS? The full form is the PHP Code Sniffer, and it is a program to validate your PHP code syntax. It is available from Peer, which is PHP Extension Application Repository, which is on this link. Okay, and what it does is it checks white spaces, document comments, formatting, variable naming convention, and different things that you define, whatever rules you define into your XML file that you want to run the checks against. It can check all of that. If there are different standards that you define, it can check the code syntax basis those standards, like according to WordPress standards and other standards like uh, let's say WordPress VIP, WordPress Extra, WordPress Docs, WordPress Core. So according to different standards, it can check the code syntax, and it can show different errors. It can even fix errors using the PHP CBF as well. Okay, so let's begin then. In order for us to install this, we're going to use Composer. So in case if you haven't already got Composer on your computer, then you can do that by installing Composer. So Composer is basically a dependency manager in PHP, and it's a tool for managing dependency in PHP. It's not a package manager. It manages the packages or libraries on per project basis and installs them in the vendor directory of your project. So this tutorial is not about Composer, but since we're going to need Composer, you should know how to download it in case if you haven't already downloaded. So you need to go onto this link, which is getcomposer.org download, and it guides you how to install the Composer on your system. Just ensure that Composer is downloaded in your globally. Composer should be downloaded globally, so let's ensure that that's taken care of. Okay, brilliant. So let's begin then. So I have already installed Composer, so I'm not going to install Composer. Okay, we're going to directly start with the PHP CS. Okay, so let's begin. So what you need to do is you need to first go on to the Composer directory. So I'm going to go on to CD and then Composer, which is my hidden directory, and if I check ls, I've got the vendor directory, which has got all of the different libraries installed. You can see I've got PHP Compatibility as well. Just one moment. So I've taken off the PHP Compatibility standards, and I'm going to go ahead and install that fresh. Okay, so what we need to do now is, once we are into the Composer directory, we need to use the Composer require command. Okay, and I'm going to install the package, which is PHP Code Sniffer. Okay, and how do we know what is the name is? Basically, you can go on to packages and you can search the package. For example, if I search the PHPCS, I'm going to get the first option as this, Squiz Labs PHP Code Sniffer, and that's the name of the package that I need to copy. I need to use Composer require, paste the name of the package, which is this. Okay, and then I also need to know what is the latest version of the Code Sniffer. Okay, and then you just paste that. Let's say okay, so Composer requires Squiz Lab PHP Code Sniffer 3.2.2 is the latest version. Okay, so I've gone ahead and installed that. I'm just installing that, and I'm going to pause it while it installs. So now it is installed. PHP Code Sniffer is installed in the Composer. The next thing we need to do is use nano and then tilde bash export.sh. Okay, and what I need to do is I need to alias PHPCS, and then I'm going to define the path up until the PHPCS. So my PHPCS is inside of the Composer, then vendor, then bin, then PHPCS. I need to define this path equal to PHPCS so that I can run the command using the PHPCS keyword. Okay, so I need to define this. So I've just gone ahead and copied this and I pasted it over here. inside of my exports.sh directory. Sorry, exports.sh file. Okay, I pasted that, I've saved it. Okay, and I've got out. Then you need to quit the terminal and reopen terminal. Okay, so if I had to just show you, cd composer ls vendor, or let's go into vendor, cd vendor ls, and if you go inside of bin ls, you can see that PHP CS and PHPCBF, all of this is installed over here. So all I have to do is just define this path inside of my exports.sh file. So if I had to show this to you once again, this is just to show you don't have to actually do it right now. You can see that this is the path I've defined, and you also need to define the PHPCBF path as well. So make sure that you copy this command, copy this line of code, these two line of code, which is PHPCS and PHPCBF, and these two line of code to define this path, so that you can run these commands, PHPCS to check the errors, display the errors, and PHPCBF to fix those errors automatically. Okay, so these are the two keywords that we need to define the paths for. Okay, so it's inside of the vendor bin PHPCBF. Okay, so and you can see that PHPCBF and PHPCS is inside of the this directory. Yep, that's what we're doing here. So just to recap, what we've done so far is we have gone ahead and gone inside of the we have installed Composer if we already didn't have it, and then we have gone inside the Composer directory and we have used Composer requires quislab PHP code sniffer, that's the name of the package. We have used the version number of the code sniffer, and then we have gone inside of the exports.sh bash file to include the aliases for PHPCS and the PHPCBF. Okay, and okay, and then we can always use PHP CS, and then with the flag of h, which is a help command. Okay, so these are different commands that we can use. Okay, similarly we can check the version number of the PHPCS using PHPCS and then flag as -- version. Now we can see that we've got the version of 3.2.2, that's the version we had installed. Okay, and now the next thing what we need to do is we need to install the WPCS, which is WordPress coding standard. Okay, so all we have to do is just go inside the Composer directory again, Composer. Okay, we are inside of the Composer directory. All we have to do is just go ahead and type Composer require, and the name of the package is WP coding standard. If you go on to packages and type WPCS, you will be able to see that you've got the WP coding standard, WPCS. This is the package name that you need to copy and paste over here after require, and the version number, the latest one is 0.114.0, and that's what we have here. That's what we mentioned. Okay, so let's do that. So it's downloading that. I'm going to pause the video while it downloads it. Okay, it's already done. That's fine. Okay, now if we go ahead and check ls, go to vendor directory, because all the packages that we download, they all go in the vendor directory. Now if we do ls, we can see that we've got the WP coding standard, and if we go inside of the WP coding standard, we can see that we have the WPCS directory there. Okay, and if we just come back, do ls, and we also have the we have the WP coding standard, and inside of the bin directory we have the PHPCS, which we have already checked earlier. And PHPCBF. Now after installing the WPCS, you need to install the PHP compatibility globally. Okay, so for that again you need to go into the composer directory, and then you need to use git clone https github.com wing phpcompatibility.git. Okay, so just clone that. Alright, now if you check ls vendor, you can see now that we have the WP coding standard, inside of which we have the WPCS, and then we also have the just one moment. Sorry, you don't need to install inside of the composer, but inside of the composer vendor directory. So just remove the using the rf command, just remove this particular directory PHP compatibility from the composer directory, okay, in case if you've just installed it, and go ahead and change the directory to vendor, and then use this git clone command to download the, okay, so you just hit enter after this, and then you'll be able to download the PHP compatibility. Okay, so I've already done that inside of my vendor directory, and then now if you check ls, we have the PHP compatibility folder over here. Okay, so now if you go on to cat composer, okay, let's go back to our root directory of composer and check cat composer.json. You can see that we have the WP coding standard WPCS, and that's the package name. Okay, this one, and we have the version number 0.14.0, and we also have the Squizlab PHP code sniffer. Okay, and that's the name of the package for the PHPCS with the version 3.2.2, and that's the version we had. Okay, so we've got these packages installed inside of the composer vendor directory. Okay, and once that is done, we've also installed the PHP compatibility globally inside of the vendor directory already. Okay, now we need to link the WPCS and PHP compatibility standards with PHPCS. Okay, so we need to tell PHPCS that this is the path for the PHP compatibility and the WP coding standards. So if we go on to vendor directory, we have the PHP compatibility and we have the WP coding standard. So we need to define this path to tell PHPCS that this is where you need to use the standards from. So I'll go back into composer directory and I'm just going to go ahead and copy this path. How do you know this path? So just want to show that to you, how you would know that path. So you just go to cd vendor and cd PHP compatibility. You do pwd. So you copy this path. Okay, you can copy it and keep it. Okay, and then similarly get outside of this and go to WP coding standards, inside of which you have WPCS, and do pwd. Your path may be different, that's why you need to do pwd to find out this path. So you can copy this path as well and keep it. Okay, and then the next thing you need to do is come back to your composer directory and you do PHPCS and then config set installed paths. Just going to copy this. So config set installed paths space, you need to type the first directory path, comma, second directory path, don't leave the space, and hit enter. You can see that these paths have been added successfully to composer, vendor, squishlab, php code sniffer, codesniffer.config. Okay, so these paths have been added into this particular file. Okay, so if we go on to that file, just to show that to you, ls, this is the file where the paths have been added. So I'm just going to show that to you. Just going to open that file, and you can see that these two paths have been added in the installed path inside of the codesniffer.config file, which is inside of the PHP code sniffer. Okay, cool. So let's get out of it. That's all done. Okay, so just a quick recap. What we've done so far is that we have installed Composer if we didn't have it already. Then we have used Composer. Then we have gone inside the Composer directory and used Composer requires squishlabs PHP code sniffer. Okay. And then we have used nano, then this particular code, and defined the alias for PHPCS and PHPCBF. And then we have installed the WPCS globally, okay, which means it's installed inside of the vendor directory, inside of Composer directory. WPCS has been installed. Then we installed the PHP compatibility using the GitHub link, okay, inside of the vendor folder. And the next thing we have done is we have defined this path, these two paths for the PHP compatibility and WPCS using this set of line of code. Okay, and if you want to check that these paths have been defined and included, then all we have to do is just do PHPCS and then and we can see that install coding standards are pure, Zend, and all of that. We have PHP compatibility over here, and we also have the WordPress, WordPress Extra, WordPress Docs, WordPress Core, WordPress VIP. So all of these standards have been defined inside of the PHPCS. Okay, so we all set. All we have to do is now, use the PHPCS and PHPCBF. The first thing we're going to do is now go into our themes directory. So I'm inside of the WordPress, WP content, themes, and name of my theme. And what I need to do is I need to include a file for this. So I'll go into this link. So you can pause the video and check this link. I will copy this entire code. This is a file basically called phpcs.xml.dist. This file basically contains all the rules that we need to check for our coding standard for the code style. Okay, so all of these rules have been defined. You can see that, it's using the PHP code sniffer, WP coding standard, PHP compatibility, all of that is being used over here. So just copy this whole thing from here up until here. Just copy this and create a file with this name, and inside of the file just paste this code. Okay, so I've already done that. I pasted this code inside of this file, the same name of the file as this is. Okay, and I've put that into the root directory of my theme. Once that is done, now we can run the PHP check. So we'll go back into our theme. So I'm going to go into where my WordPress is. So it's inside of Valley, then it's inside of WordPress, then it's inside of the WP content, then themes, then Cosperl is the name of my theme. Okay, so I'm inside of my theme. All I have to do is just run a set of code, which is, first thing I'm going to write is PHPCS. Then I'm going to put a flag as standard is equal to, so I'm going to set the standard to this file because this file has got all the rules that are defined for checking the code. So I'm going to put the name of the file over here, then space, and I want to run the check on index.php. So I'm going to put the name of the file for which I want to run the test for. You can also write the name of the directory. If you write the name of the directory like template parts, then it's going to run the check on all the files inside of the template parts. But for now, let's keep it simple, and I'm using just index.php. So let's do that, and you can see that it's found one error on line number 59. So I'm going to go into my index.php, and it says that additional white space is found at the end of the file at line number 59. So at line number line number 59, I have got these additional spaces over here. Now I have two options. Either I can go ahead and fix these errors, or I can use phpcbf command to fix these errors. As you can see, it says phpcbf can fix one marked sniff violations automatically. So remember, we had gone into the Cosprel vendor directory. If I had to just show you, cd, I'm going to go into root directory, cd composer, vendor, bin, ls. You can see this was the phpcbf, and we had also defined the path up until the phpcbf in the alias, if you remember. Over here we had done the alias of phpcbf to this particular file, vendor bin phpcbf. So this will allow us to use this command phpcbf. Okay, so let's close this one. Go back over here. All I'm going to do is say phpcbf, because that's the command name, space standard is equal to name of the file, the same, which is phpcs.xml.dist. okay, which is basically this file, which has got all the rules. Okay, and then index.php, and notice what happens over here. So right now we have all of these extra spaces. Once we run this code, okay, you can see that a total of 1 error were fixed in one file. So if I go back, you can see that extra space have been taken off. Yep. So you can either fix the error yourself, or phpcbf is going to fix it for you. Okay. Similarly, you can define this file and you can write your own set of rules. But for this, since this is a very basic tutorial to talk about how you can use PHPCS, how to install it, and things like that, let's keep it simple. If you still have any questions, you will leave a comment and I'll go ahead and answer them. All right. That's about it then. If you do like the video, please do subscribe to my channel and do share the video. Thank you very much, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.